Former Iowa head coach Lisa Bluder had a front row seat for Clark's record-breaking career. Lisa knew Caitlin would be special the first time she watched her play. Do you remember the first time you saw Caitlin play, and what were your thoughts?
Scott, I do remember. She was like 7th grade playing up against high school players, and I thought, wow, this kid is going to be pretty amazing.
You know what's interesting about you both now is you have a connective thread, one of the most transcendent players in the history of women's basketball, and Caitlin Clark. And it's her birthday today. You guys both shouted her out.
Yes, that's my
Coach
girl.
Bluder and Aaliyah. Yeah, you can see on the right-hand side of your screen from Coach, and then Aaliyah doing a matchup of pictures, which is really.
The story of Caitlin Clark at the University of Iowa is often told in a shorthand of spectacular highlights and shattered records. It's a narrative of deep threes, audacious passes, sold-out arenas, and a national obsession that lifted women's college basketball to unprecedented heights. But to view it solely through that lens is to miss the profound, complex, and often turbulent human reality that fueled it. This wasn't just a player having a great career. It was a cultural phenomenon. A 4-year storm that a young athlete and her coach had to navigate in real time, with the entire sports world watching, judging, and arguing over every single possession. Former Iowa head coach Lisa Bluder had the most intimate seat in the house for this whirlwind. Her perspective transcends box scores and trophy cases. It provides the crucial, often missing context, the view from inside the rocket ship. In reflecting on the Clark era, Bluder didn't describe a simple coaching success story. She described something far more visceral and demanding, the experience of trying to steer a rocket ship while the whole world argued about where it should land. Every game transcended sport to become an event. Every road trip felt louder, more charged, more consequential than the last. The strangest part, as Bluder noted, was how the weight of it all meant.
How close are you still, Coach, to Caitlin?
Oh, I talk to her quite often. I follow all of her successes and everything. I just always want to be in her camp and support her. I have so much admiration for her, for what she has really not only just accomplished, but what she's handled in her young 24 years.
Manifested in moments the cameras never captured. It was in the palpable tension in the building during warm-ups, a thick atmosphere of expectation that preceded the tip-off. It was in the immense burden Clark carried onto the floor each night. Not just the responsibility to win, but to perform, to dazzle, to justify the hype that had swollen to a deafening roar. One rough quarter, a single cold shooting stretch, wouldn't just mean adjusting at halftime. It would spiral into a week of external noise, a torrent of analysis, criticism, and narrative shifting from opponents, media, and a fan base that had come to see every outcome in epic terms. The job description for Bluder and her staff changed fundamentally. This was no longer just about diagramming plays, managing rotations, and fostering team chemistry. It was about managing energy on a macro scale. It was about protecting the confidence of a young woman who existed under a microscope of relentless evaluation, where praise could curdle into backlash overnight. It was about keeping a locker room steady and unified when the outside world incessantly pulled the spotlight toward one person, threatening to turn teammates into mere supporting characters in someone else's starring role. It was about answering for narratives they did not create, defending decisions that were dissected by millions, and still, amidst this chaos, demanding and coaxing greatness from their team every single night. The emotional core of Bluder's reflection wasn't about winning games. It was about the fragility of the entire endeavor, how precarious everything can feel when
I told her today, your 20s have been pretty good to you.
I would say so. Yeah, they've been transformative.
you are living inside a season the world treats not as a schedule of contests, but as a movement. This framing forces a compelling question. Where does the greater credit lie? Is it with the transcendent talent, the once-in-a-generation player whose brilliance felt almost inevitable? Or does it belong to the coaching staff and the program that built the environment, made the countless adjustments, and provided the essential grounding that allowed that talent not only to flourish, but to survive the intensity of its own orbit? Bluder's connection to Clark began not with hype, but with a simple, astute observation. She first saw Clark play as a 7th grader, competing against high schoolers. The thought that flashed through her mind was prescient. Wow, this kid is going to be pretty amazing. That early recognition formed the first thread of a partnership that would later define an era. Years later, their bond is evident in simple, personal gestures, birthday shout-outs, shared pictures, a maintained friendship that speaks to a relationship built on more than just basketball transactions. What made Bluder's insight so powerful was their focus on the person within the player. She didn't speak just of coaching a star. She spoke of coaching a person inside a storm. This distinction is critical. A star is a commodity, an asset to be deployed. A person is someone you guide, protect, and help grow. Bluder's admiration for Clark is rooted not merely in the points scored or records broken, but in what Clark carried at such a young age. That word carried is a weighted one. It speaks to the psychological load, the constant scrutiny, the pressure of being a symbol, and the exhausting demand to be perfect, available, and monumental every single time out. Clark's arrival at Iowa coincided with, and then accelerated, a seismic shift in women's basketball. Her run turned into something far bigger than college athletics. It became a touring spectacle. Iowa wasn't just playing opponents.
Happy for Aaliyah when Caitlin went to Indiana, because I knew you were going to reap a lot of those passes down the court, and she was going to feed you the ball. And I just think you guys are such a dynamic.
They were headlining events. Every arena, whether home or away, crackled with a different energy. The temperature in those buildings was a tangible indicator that the sport's center of gravity had shifted. And at the center of this maelstrom was the coaching staff, tasked with an almost paradoxical mission: to develop a prodigy under a microscope, to let her play through struggles when every miss was a viral clip, and to craft a team identity when the narrative was overwhelmingly singular. The tactical reality was a relentless challenge. Every opponent designed their entire game plan around Clark. They threw box-and-ones, face-guarded her from half-court, sent double teams the moment she crossed the timeline, and employed physical, exhausting defenses aimed not always at stopping her, but at wearing her down, testing her patience, and draining her over 40 minutes. Coaching against this required incredible in-game adaptability, but the heavier lift was the emotional and psychological counter. Bluder had to instill in Clark and her teammates a steadiness, a resilience against the game within the game. When your entire offensive ecosystem is built around one gravitational force, an off night for that player isn't a minor setback. It changes the air in the building, tightens everyone's margins, and amplifies every mistake. And the pressure wasn't confined to the court. The external conversation around Clark grew increasingly loud and complex.
Watching her final season in college with you here at the desk, and then watching your relationship develop at the professional level.
Yeah, honestly, it has been so great. It's always so weird when you play against someone and then you are on the same team and building that relationship. But I think just over the past 2 years, it's been amazing. From the first time she got to Indy and us just building that relationship on the court, off the court, it's honestly.
As her fame exploded, she wasn't just analyzed, she was archetyped. One night, she was a revolutionary genius. The next, she could be labeled selfish, overhyped, or a stats chaser. The same breathtaking 30-point, 10-assist performance could be framed as either heroic leadership or ball dominance, depending on the commentator agenda. A coach cannot ignore this noise when her young player is undoubtedly absorbing it in real time through social media and press coverage. Part of the job became building a bunker of trust and perspective, helping Clark filter the useful critique from the corrosive chatter, and ensuring the locker room remained a sanctuary of unified purpose amid the external chaos. This is where the Iowa program's culture proved its mettle. Clark was the undeniable star, but the team had crucial, high-level contributors. Monica Chinano provided a polished, reliable, low-post presence. Kate Martin was the quintessential glue player, doing the hard, uncelebrated work that stitches possessions together. Gabby Marshall stretched defenses and took on tough defensive assignments. Hannah Stuelka brought explosive athleticism in transition. The coaching staff's delicate task was to make these players feel essential, valued, and empowered within a system that necessarily orbited around Clark's unique talents. The best teams don't run on equitable attention. They run on clarity of role and a shared belief in the mission. Iowa's success was a testament to their ability to foster that, to make the Caitlin Clark Show feel, internally, like the Iowa Hawkeyes journey. The relationship between coach and player forged in this furnace. evolved into something durable. Most college coach-player bonds, however strong, naturally attenuate after graduation as lives and careers diverge. Bluder and Clark's connection clearly deepened. They talk regularly. Bluder follows her successes closely, offering unwavering support from what she calls her camp. This enduring link suggests a shared experience that was more than transactional. It was transformative. It hints at a mutual respect forged not just in victory, but in surviving the shared burden of expectation, scrutiny, and relentless pressure. This bond is echoed in Clark's new professional life. Her transition to the WNBA's Indiana Fever created a fascinating new chapter, pairing her with another college phenom, Aaliyah Boston. The development of their on-court synergy and off-court friendship is revealing. Boston has spoken about how Clark consciously works to keep her engaged and confident, especially in a guard-oriented offense where a post player can sometimes feel isolated. This is leadership in action, not just vocal, but embedded in habit. It's the quick reassurance after a miss, the extra pass that rewards a cut, the consistent communication that builds trust. These traits aren't developed in a vacuum. They are, in part, a product of the environment in which a player matures. At Iowa, Clark wasn't just allowed to be a star. She was taught, implicitly and explicitly, how to be a leader within a team framework, even when she was the headline. Then there is the lingering, unresolved note of the Iowa era, the championship that never came. Twice, Clark led the Hawkeyes to the national title game, and twice they fell short. For a player and a program that captured the nation's imagination so completely, these final step stumbles are a complicated legacy. In the reductive world of sports debate, championships are often treated as the ultimate binary validator. The absence of one can be wielded to undermine everything that came before. But this ignores the beautiful, cruel randomness of a single elimination tournament. A coach can build the perfect system, empower a generational talent, and guide a team to the brink, only to see the final outcome hinge on a handful of possessions, a matchup quirk, a hot opposing shooter, or the simple bounce of the ball. For Bluder, this creates a unique tension. She presided over an era that fundamentally changed her program and significantly elevated her sport. The crowds, the ratings, the cultural resonance, all were unprecedented. Yet, the conversation can quickly pivot from celebration to a forensic inquest on those final losses. Every late-game decision, every substitution pattern, every timeout is put on trial in the court of public opinion. It's a weight that anyone in leadership understands. The closer you get to the pinnacle without reaching it, the more intense the scrutiny of the why not. The timing of Bluder's decision to step down after the Clark era feels significant. After decades of building and leading, she chose to conclude her tenure on the Iowa sideline immediately following the most intense, all-consuming chapter in the program's history. This can be seen not as an escape, but as a poignant punctuation mark. It suggests an understanding that a distinct, definitive epoch had concluded. Having poured every ounce of energy into guiding a phenomenon, it was a natural moment for reflection and a passing of the torch. She left the stage knowing she had coached through a period that redefined what was possible for Iowa basketball. When Bluder jokes that Clark's 20 seconds have been pretty good to her, it's a masterclass in understatement. Clark's early adulthood has been a non-stop, high-velocity ascent. She went from a highly touted recruit to a national celebrity in what felt like an instant. There was no gradual ramp-up, no quiet period of adjustment. The fame, the records, the scrutiny, and the transition to professional stardom came in a relentless wave. The people around her, Bluder foremost among them, weren't just coaching an athlete. They were managing a rapidly unfolding phenomenon, trying to protect the person at the heart of it all. The hardest moments of this journey likely weren't the 40-point explosions or the record-breaking nights. Those were the releases, the validations. The hardest moments were the quiet ones in the aftermath of defeat, particularly those two final, crushing losses. The 2023 title game loss to LSU and the 2024 championship defeat to South Carolina, the latter carrying the finality of Clark's last college game, were wounds that went deep. In those moments, a coach's role shifts from strategist to counselor. She has to help a player and a team process profound disappointment in private, while the public sphere demands instant, polished reactions. She has to allow space for grief without letting it metastasize into doubt, to frame the setback as part of a journey rather than its defining failure. Doing this under the glare of a national spotlight is an immense challenge. Bluder's quiet, profound respect for how Clark handled this pressure is perhaps the most telling compliment. When someone who witnessed the storm from the closest possible vantage point expresses admiration for how a young person carried themselves, it implies there were inflection points where things could have fractured, moments where the weight could have bent the player's spirit, strained team chemistry, or derailed the narrative. The fact that it didn't is a credit to Clark's innate fortitude, but also to the support system, the coaching, the culture, the environment that Bluder and her staff fought to maintain. There was also the
So when you met up with each other, of course, you've got all your college history, but then does it not take too long to recognize, hey, this is somebody that is like-minded like me, skilled like me, and can elevate my game to a level that I haven't?
Yeah, I mean,
you had a
know that from
fantastic
playing
season last
against
season.
her. You know that from playing against her, just how competitive she is in that nature. And so to be on the same team, it honestly continues to motivate you because you guys want to be great for each other. And I feel like that's how we play. Like every time we step on the floor, we give each other our pregame hugs, and she says you're going to be amazing because you are amazing, and I say it back. But it's just that confidence that Caitlin just continues to make you.
Constant, often tiresome debate about Clark's style of play. Her high usage rate, her deep three-point attempts, her ball-dominant creativity became topics of critique as much as celebration. For every fan dazzled by her audacity, there was a pundit suggesting she should play a more conventional, disciplined brand of basketball. For Bluder, this presented another tightrope. Publicly, she was an unwavering shield, defending her players' right to play to her unique strengths. Privately, the coaching work involved refining that brilliance, helping Clark discern between a good heat check and a forced bad shot, between visionary passing and risky turnovers, all within a relationship of absolute trust. The fact that this relationship not only endured but thrived after Clark's departure is a testament to the authenticity at its core. Zooming out, the legacy of the Lisa Bluder and Caitlin Clark era at Iowa is multifaceted and indelible. It is, without question, a legacy of transformation. Bluder coached the defining collegiate figure of her generation, a player who didn't just break records but shifted markets, moved television needles, and forced a broader sports audience to engage with women's basketball with a new level of seriousness and passion. The program reached heights of relevance and success it had never before experienced. The missing national championship will always be a part of the story, a what-if that fuels debate. But to let that single absence overshadow everything else is to profoundly miss the point. The ring would have been a glorious capstone, but the cathedral had already been built. The sport had already been moved. A new standard for excitement, star power, and cultural impact in women's college basketball had already been set. The truest legacy might be found not in a banner, but in a blueprint. It's the blueprint of a coach who successfully guided a once-in-a-lifetime talent through a pressure cooker of historic proportions, helping her emerge not just as a great player, but as a resilient, grounded leader. It's the blueprint of a player who absorbed every lesson, shouldered every expectation, and changed the game without losing her connection to her teammates or her joy for basketball. Their story is ultimately one of a powerful, successful partnership, a coach and a player who, together, navigated a rocket ship ride for the ages, and in doing so, left a permanent mark on the landscape of American sports.